Anneliese joins us. Good afternoon to you, Anneliese.
Good afternoon, Patricia.
And I can't believe we have a flurry of texts in about people who are trying to get over COVID, and it was kicked off by a listener who can't get a negative test result. She's been for the last 10 days testing and she keeps coming up positive. Now she's done all her, she's, bless her heart, she's staying indoors and she's continuing to isolate, but she's feeling absolutely wretched. She describes it as, she said, I feel like the life has been sucked out of me. And that then led to a number of other people who were saying that they got COVID in the last 2 weeks and that it seems to be an awful dose is doing the rounds. Are you hearing similar in the shop?
Yes, I have a bit now. Actually, not as bad as it was, I suppose, when COVID was in full flight, but definitely. I think as well, Patricia, though we forget that COVID is around to stay now, like the flu, and there are always going to be variations that are milder and there are always going to be variations that are worse. I mean, actually, if you think about the year before we had COVID, I don't know, does anybody remember pre-COVID? I barely remember it myself, but I remember in the newspapers outrage because there was about people on trolleys in hospitals because there was such a bad flu.
Yeah.
So there is always going to be nasty variations of the viruses around. The thing is I suppose it's less lethal. So that's something to be grateful for. And people will have different symptoms. I mean, some people are absolutely symptomless, but then they get long COVID, Patricia. So it's a very, very strange virus indeed. So my advice to most people is prevent. So start, like we haven't had a great summer. So I'd actually be starting family kids going back to school. I'd be starting them now on a vitamin C, zinc and a vitamin D. Just get them primed up for the winter, because the better your immune system is placed, the less likely the virus can take hold. And we all know now it's the viral load that makes the difference. So if that poor lady who's still testing positive after 10 days obviously has a huge viral load. So a lot more of the virus copies in her body than somebody who has less symptoms. So if you can prime your immune system, that really is the key. And my advice to somebody when they get COVID is to actually take vitamin C, zinc and vitamin D 3 times a day. So I'd be taking it every couple of hours and just keep it circulating in those amounts through the system so that they're supporting all of your white blood cells and antibodies in the fight against COVID. For energy then, I think some people get a good buzz from the Source of Life Gold afterwards as a tonic. And what I love about that is that there's mushroom extract in there, which is a wonderful one as an antiviral. Some people found the Revive Active is very helpful to give them a boost as well. I've been recommending N-acetylcysteine to a lot of customers, especially if they've any leftover chest stuff. Quercetin was a very popular one as well throughout the first round of COVID, Patricia, and the role that plays mostly is as an antihistamine for hay fever and that. But it also helps to shuttle zinc very efficiently into the cells, and zinc is the big one for the immune system. So if you're really struggling, take quercetin and zinc together. But a lot of people actually, interestingly, told me that their allergies cleared up taking the NAC as well. So people who were put on it after COVID ended up getting far less of a hay fever this year, which was very interesting because June was shocking for hay fever. So there's an awful lot in that there, and I think it is very individual. I think the best thing to do is probably call into your health shop and explain exactly how you're feeling. I think wear a mask if you're not sure if you're still testing positive or negative, because, we're mixing with this, and lots of people have it that aren't even testing, Patricia. So the guilt about giving it to people now that you might kill them is gone,
Yeah, and we're heading into that period where we're all indoors, or we'll be indoors more, even though people will say we were indoors a lot this summer, the way it was. But you would be expecting a spike now, but yet we seem to be getting a spike at the moment.
Well, I think there always used to be a summer flu, Patricia.
Yeah,
and then there's always a spike in coughs, colds and misery when kids go back to school.
That's
then
true.
There's always another one kind of around the end of December, January. So I'm going by my own experience in the shop as opposed to data. But I'd say the data kind of follows. So I think we could probably expect 3 or 4 sort of waves every year.
Yeah.
But hopefully the disease is the virus is getting less and less lethal. The thing I worry about actually more about this particular virus is long COVID. I've never seen anything like that. I've seen post-viral fatigue for people with glandular fever and very bad flu and shingles, but it's in the minority. Whereas I now see young, healthy people with long COVID, and it's very confusing.
And it can be really debilitating.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah.
Okay, Tina is getting reoccurring kidney infections. What's the best way to prevent kidney infections?
Okay, so what we normally do is put people on 3 different products. The first one is something called Cranbiotics, and this is a blend of the bacteria that are beneficial for the kidney tract, the urinary tract, plus cranberry extract, which can help prevent, the bacteria that cause the infections to be sticking on. And then we also give people D-mannose, which is a sugar, which actually also has that same property. So in order to be able to stick on, bacteria need to be able to kind of create a little spike and kind of get themselves attached on that way. And D-mannose prevents them from being able to do that. So D-mannose. And then the last thing we recommend is a Dr. Dealish Clare product, which is called Cystone, Cystone. And it's a blend of different herbs that are very good to nourish the health of the cells of the urinary tract so that the good bacteria can re-establish and flourish. So normally I would say 3 times a day if you've got an active infection, and then once a day for at least 1 or 2 months if it's recurrent, 1 month if it's a once-off. And then after that go on to a maintenance dose, maybe just take a D-mannose every day for at least 3 months until you can say you've been infection-free for 3 months.
Okay, and again, they're nasty. I haven't had one, touch wood, in years, but I used to be a martyr for kidney infections. They're really nasty, nasty things.
And they make you feel exhausted. And actually people are put on long-term antibiotics for them as well, and the antibiotic makes them exhausted. And again, this is just an observational thing, but since COVID, and I don't know, is it something to do with the ACE receptors, because we have them in our lungs, we definitely have people who've got asthma after COVID and a lot more kidney problems since COVID. So I'm wondering, is it something to do with that receptor? We'll find out, I suppose, in time.
Okay, Jenny's been suffering from leg cramps and she's been recommended to take magnesium. But when do you take the magnesium? Is it before you go to bed or is it during the day?
I think it probably depends when you get the cramps. So magnesium is very good to enable muscles to be able to relax. And so that's why it prevents those kind of spasms. If most people would normally get them when they go to bed at night, so therefore I take it at least an hour before you go to bed. But if you get them after you sit down for your dinner, when you're watching a bit of telly, if that's when you get them, take it directly after your dinner. So roughly about an hour before the time you usually get muscle cramps.
Okay, hi. I'm on a lot of blood pressure tablets, but I'm getting what I can only describe as heart flutters. My doctor doesn't seem to be making anything of it. What would you recommend for a fluttering heart?
Now, that is a difficult one, and there really is not much that I can recommend for that, Patricia, because it depends why the heart is fluttering. And if the doctor's not making anything of it, it's obviously following a normal rhythm. But a lot of people, sometimes they would say, I feel my heart skips a beat, or I feel my heart flutters, where it does actually have an extra beat or a beat less, and it doesn't cause any problems in terms of health. But if you wanted to be sure, what I'd suggest there is making sure the electrolytes in your system were correct. And they're the things that keep our heart beating and our blood pressure kind of working properly. So I know it seems to be contraindicated with high blood pressure, but I would get a good quality sea salt and I would put a pinch of that in with a litre of water and I would drink that throughout the day, because that's the most natural way of getting calcium, sodium, magnesium and potassium in a good ratio that we're used to into our bodies. And if you really are worried about the salt, you can actually buy those electrolytes. Lots of sports shops would have them. Again, you can add them to your drinks, and that's just making sure that everything that needs to be in there for your heart to beat properly is. But it mightn't work for everybody.
Okay, Pat in Bantry is looking for your recommendations, please, for very dry skin.
Okay, so with very dry skin, I suppose it's about nourishing from the inside as well as from the outside, because you could put loads of creams on and a lot of people will find that it still doesn't make any difference. So that, I think, probably means that the oils are missing from the membrane, actually, of the skin cells. So I always think taking a high-quality fat would work very well for that. I'd often see it for people with eczema, that it benefits, or people who have a very low-fat diet. Maybe you're not getting enough fat in your diet. So, in terms of foods, increase the amount of oily fish in your diet, nuts and seeds, and avocados. Or you could take a tablespoon of olive oil every day. So this is getting all the really healthy, good quality fat into the diet. And if you don't like the idea of doing any of that, take a fish oil supplement. Or you could take an omega-7 supplement. So the fish oils are very high in omega-3s, and they're good for skin and heart health and brain health. But the omega-7 are very specifically good for skin and eyes and kind of all the mucous membranes. So that would be putting it in from the inside. And then from the outside, we have a couple of creams here that seem to work very well. And the Hopes Relief is one that a lot of people get a great benefit from. That's Hope's Relief, and they do a great skin cream. Try and go for something with no chemicals in it, and you want something that, you know, sinks into the skin, because if it's sitting on top of your skin, it's not being absorbed in. So, like, that's why a lot of the time that emulsifier cream is no good, Patricia, because it protects the skin, but it doesn't sink right in.
It's exactly as you describe. It just sits on top, kind of makes it almost oily.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, here's one that there could be a number of parents identifying with this. Hi, I've got a very nervous little 5-year-old boy starting school next week. What would Anneliese recommend? Would rescue remedy help?
I think it would, for sure, for kids. I think even the idea of giving them something that will help them feel strong is just, even from a placebo effect, would make a difference. But there are things that you can give to children that are anxious. There is kids' magnesium, which is very good for relaxing, especially as well for kids who might be anxious going to bed at night and not sleeping very well. And there's also something called L-theanine. It's spelled with a capital L and then the word theanine, Theanine. And you can actually buy specific ones for kids, but I just say take the adult capsule version, open the capsule and put it into a yogurt and give it to them for breakfast before going out to school. And L-theanine is a wonderful one for immediate calming. Like, it kicks in about 15 minutes and it really does just promote calm and focus. So it's a great one for kids because it does help them sit in school and listen and keep their concentration even if they're feeling a bit anxious.
Okay, hi. A listener says, could she ask Anneliese, is there anything she would recommend for a feeling of fear and jitters inside? I've no worries and I lead a very happy life, but I've started to feel like I'm afraid on the inside, like almost like a bit of anxiety.
It sounds like a bit of anxiety, Patricia, and I suppose sometimes we become so inured to stress because it's like part of everyday life. You think, well, nothing's really changed, but now I'm starting to feel anxious. And it could just be a little bit of stress burnout that has gotten you there. I often notice as well, it's a big one for menopausal women or for hormonal women coming up to their periods, that you get anxious. Some people get cranky, some people get weepy, but a lot of people actually do get anxious. And one of the most common symptoms I'm seeing of menopause is anxiety. Women saying, I'm even anxious to go out and meet my friends. What's that all about? I never had that before. So there are a couple of things that could help. I think a herb called ashwagandha is a wonderful one to just kind of build up your stress coping ability. It's like it kind of gives you a strong core almost to be able to cope better. We sell one here that has got some of the B vitamins in there. It's a lovely product called Stress Vida, but you'll get that ashwagandha in any health shop. And that works in the long term just to help you feel stronger. And then in the short term, there's two options here. There's the option that I mentioned for the anxious kid, which is L-theanine, and the other one is CBD oil. This is cannabis oil without the hallucinatory component. So you could take this now and fly a plane, you would pass every drug test. So don't get worried when you hear cannabis oil. But it does have that very calming effect, and it works extremely quickly. You just put a drop under the tongue. So those two, L-theanine and the cannabis oil, maybe don't have a long-term benefit, but they'll definitely help in the moment to take that feeling away.
Okay, listen, have a lovely weekend. We'll chat again next Monday.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thanks, Anneliese. That is Anneliese Dressel of the Health Hub, Times Square in Ballincollig. And as always, so much information given out by Anneliese. So this afternoon on her, if you wait to go onto her website this afternoon, she'll put up as heard on the radio under healthhubstore.com. That's her website, healthhubstore.com. And of course, John Paul, when he's doing the podcast in the afternoon, will put it up on as a separate podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Or you can get it on c103.ie.